all yours.
Okay, thank you. And warm welcome to everyone to the Planning Committee, and a Happy New Year to all. So let's hope it's a good one for us all. So first item on the agenda is any apologies for absence?
I've had one from Councillor Richard Lewis, Chair.
Correct. Yeah, okay. No others. Second item then is any disclosures of personal and prejudicial interests? No? No? Okay. Item 3 then is the minutes, to approve and sign the minutes of the previous meeting as a correct record, and you'll find them on pages 1 to 3. If you want to go through them, is page 1, page 2, and page 3. Somebody moves the true record, please. Thank you. Item 4, any items for deferral or withdrawal?
No, Chair.
No, hopefully not. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and so like on to item 5 is the determination of planning applications under the Town and Country Planning Act of 1990. And we'll see that the item we have before us is at plot E3 and E7, sorry, and E8 at the waterfront SA1. So David, that's over to you, please.
Thank you, Chair. So obviously we'll go through the presentation first, and then we'll go through the summarise the main issues on the report. So yeah, E7, E8, SA1 waterfront. So if you've got the next slide, please, Ian. Obviously, there's the red line. We'll put up a Google image on the next slide to give you a better idea. Obviously, the linear part of the red line obviously is the access link onto Langdon Road to the north of the site, and then obviously it's the land there to the southeast of Princess Wales Dock. Next slide, Ian, please. There, that gives you a better idea of the site. So you've got the dark area, obviously, is the water area of Princess Wales Dock. You've got the existing SA1 development to the north of the Prince of Wales Dock. You can see there, completed both sides of Langdon Road. You've got the existing access of infrastructure constructed already to serve the site, and the road to the east-south of the site is actually closed off, but part of it to the south is ABP's operational port, and the part of their access roads to the development. You've got the driver test centre there on the right of the screen. You can see the sort of general sort of car park area. And then to the north of the site, you've got a vacant development plot. And then the other plot on the end of the existing development is one of the areas which will be developed by the local authority as an area of public open space. Okay, so this is a brownfield site. Obviously, you can see the greenfield is basically being reclaimed. 1.8 hectares. Whilst you got two development plots, it looks like those plots have been split there, but they're actually joined together. That sort of diagonal path split of the site represents the reservation strip of the Port Tennant Canal. So that's it is a policy in the LDP to retain a strip to hopefully at some stage in the future facilitate access from the canal into Prince of Wales Dock, but obviously that's quite a long-term aspirational. So what that means is obviously we need to retain that. So the development, if we go on to the next slide, Ian, please. There we go. So there's the access layout. So you can see obviously the existing access to the north of the site, and then you've got where it's got informal POS landscaping area. Obviously that's the canal strip which needs to be retained, and that's created an opportunity within the development as an area of public open space. So the layout obviously is dictated by the existing access road, the relationship to Prince of Wales Dock, the promenade, and obviously the canal reservation strip, which obviously is restricted the development into two forms, if you like, and that's dictated the layout we have there. So we have 108 units, a mixture of apartment blocks. I think there's 56 apartment blocks and 52 townhouses, all 3-story development. The townhouses are 4-bed units, so the apartment blocks are only 1-bed units. And therefore, obviously, you've got the communal car parking and landscaping through the site. If you go to the next slide, Ian, please. So yeah, that's the layout. That's just been overlaid by the blue area, obviously represents the communal car parking for the development. So we've got 108 units, 117 car parking spaces. And the next slide, Ian, please. So obviously that is the landscape strategy. So you can see the amount of greening within the development, and also the that's a canal strip which has been used as an opportunity within the development. And if we go to the next slide, Ian, please. So there we go. So that's typical sections, elevations through the site. And you can see it's split into terraces of the townhouses, which are 3-story. And then obviously you've got the residential blocks as well, which are again 3-story. And if you give an idea of what we're looking at, next slide, Ian, please. There you go. That's the elevation. So obviously, again, you can see it's brick development, so it's a robust brick which picks up on the elevations and the features, historic features of the SA1 development. Dockside type architecture again, with double height windows and projecting balconies as well. And there's the townhouses incorporate roof terraces as well. So obviously, whilst they have access to the general communal space around the site, obviously in SA1 you don't have typical garden, suburban type garden areas. So obviously each block, each unit either has a terrace or a balcony area. And the next slide, Ian. So that's the typical townhouse elevation. So obviously you can see four bedrooms, and obviously you can see the terrace at the 2nd floor level. And some images from the scheme. Flip through, Ian, please. There we go. So that's the typical townhouse feature. The entrance area with refuse areas, and obviously small forecourt areas, which give it some kind of private public definition from the communal areas. And the next one, Ian, please. Again, a similar type of image which shows that definition. And the last image then, please, Ian. There we go. So that's an image looking from within the linear park within the development. So obviously you can see the mixture there of how the development will relate to that. So you've got the terraces at 2nd floor level, top floor level, overlooking the park area. And it's got various sort of landscaping, rain garden features, and opportunities for maybe some growing areas as well. Okay, that completes the presentation. So we'll go through the main issues in the report. As I say, the site is situated within the SA1 development. It's within the approved outline permission for the master plan. And E78 are specifically allocated for residential development, and in accordance with the master plan, they require between 3 and maximum 4 stories. In this case, obviously, they are 3 stories and conform to the master plan. So therefore, it's in accordance with land use, general scale, building parameters for the scheme, and it's compliant in terms of LDP policies, the strategic development policies, SDK, and placemaking policies, PS1, PS2, and also provides affordable housing in accordance with policies H2 and H3 as well. Placemaking guidance. So it's been assessed by the council's placemaking officer having regard to the residential design guide and the LDP policies for placemaking. So as I say, our site is within a sustainable location within the SA1 development. number of local facilities within walking distance. It's got a good urban density, which is obviously appropriate for this dockside regeneration location, and the scale is in accordance with the SA1 master plan. As I outlined, the layout has been designed to respond to the existing infrastructure, the road, the promenade, and also have regard to retain the Tennant Canal reservation strip, which sort of splits the site in two. So obviously that's been used as the opportunity to create the park going through the development. So there's a positive integration, public open space with placemaking, strong active frontage, 3-story scale accords with the master plan, and obviously it's got quite robust brick finishes referencing the SA1 heritage buildings and the outline master plan design code as well. As outlined, the apartments got balconies, the townhouses have terraces, so obviously they've got some private amenity space, but obviously they have access to the external amenity space as well. I mentioned the operational port, which obviously it butts on the access road. The application has been accompanied by a noise impact assessment, which considers the impact on the future residents and that having regard to the existing noise from Swansea docks, traffic, various industrial land uses. That's undertaken noise modelling in most areas of the site, and it has concluded that the noise would be acceptable with most areas with natural ventilation, but obviously the areas nearest to the dock obviously will require some form of upgraded glazing and ventilation systems. In terms of highways parking issues, highways officers have previously expressed concerns about the layout based on car parking and the internal highway carriageway layout. There's been some updated information with regards transport statements, parking beat surveys, framework parking management plan, travel plan to address these concerns. So as I say, 117 spaces, 108 units, so it's just above 1-to-1, which is typical of SA1 development. Obviously, we've been through these issues previously on other plots. As I say, this is a sustainable location. Both future wheels, planning policy guidance on car parking is relevant. They look obviously to reduce reliance on the private car, supporting modal shift to walking, cycling, public transport, etc. And local authorities are encouraged support schemes which keep parking levels down. So it's in a similar location, and obviously, as I say, other precedents within SA1 have allowed a ratio of 1-to-1. There has been framework parking management plan for how the site will be managed. Obviously, as I say, this has been managed by POBL, so they will retain ownership of the site in general. They'll maintain the public open space and the obviously manage the car parking areas as well, to ensure obviously there's no spill out onto the internal highway road network. Members will obviously be aware Langdon Road is obviously well protected by traffic regulation orders. This spur, obviously, you might be aware that it's not actually open at currently. So obviously, for this development to be undertaken and completed, obviously the access road would need to be completed. Need to be opened up from the existing Langdon Road junction, and the TROs probably would need to be extended into this area as well to obviously keep this access spur clear of on-street car parking. The internal road isn't going to be adopted. Highways have highlighted it's not up to adoptable standard, but it's not intended to be. The access, it will be maintained, as I say, by POBL, and they will be responsible for the maintenance of the sites. The drainage flood risk issue has been addressed in the report. As I say, it accords with existing TAN 2004 publication, and it conforms to condition 8 of the outline permission with regards to the finished floor levels across the site. The other main issues to consider are the green infrastructure ecology across the site. So they've obviously been supported by considerable extended habitat surveys, ecological reports, and vertebrate lower plant survey reports as well. The habitat is typical of post-industrial land, and it's been dominated by semi-improved calcareous alkaline grassland, which is deemed to be sufficient as an indicator of a site of important nature conservation quality, a SINC, although it's not actually designated as such at this stage. So it's got a number of habitats, vertebrate populations across it. Obviously, what we try to do then is to mitigate that as much as possible with landscape strategy, planting strategy within the open space, and that will be controlled by condition. Say lower plant species is being investigated. There's nothing of which are significant in protected species across the site. Obviously, the landscaping will try and mitigate as much as possible. And having regard to policies, LDP policies E8, ER8, ER9, and the stepwise approach in the Council's biodiversity SBG. The site has been having regard to mitigation, compensation. So having regard to that, there is a agreed 106 contribution of £20,000, which is based on a management cost of £1,000 per annum for over 20 years. So that will cover either on-site or potentially off-site if suitable areas of mitigation can be found. There is reference in the report to contamination. It's obviously a historic part of this docks area. There are conditions on the outline permission which will need to be upheld. So obviously they will require intrusive site investigations for the sites. However, it's not considered to be a constraint to the development, which has obviously previously been investigated under the outline permission. So in conclusion, it's part of the SC1 waterfront development allocated for residential development. So of a suitable scale in accordance with the master plan. Affordable housing, highly efficient homes utilizing renewable sustainable energy sources, including solar panels, ground source heat pumps. It's got extensive green infrastructure landscaping through the sites. Retains the canal reservation strip. With regard to placemaking guidance, it's been designed to have regard to that. So obviously it retains the character of future residential communities of the occupiers. And in general, it's policy compliant to LDP policies, highway policies, and the car parking. So it's subject to recommendation with the 106 for 10% affordable housing in accordance with LDP SA1 policy, and the landscaping contribution at ecology for £20,000. Thank you, Chair.
Indeed, thank you very much, David. And we got, before the issue's debated, we've got two speakers. The first one is Emily Avery from ABP. Emily, you've got 5 minutes to address the committee, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, members. My name is Emily Avery and I'm a Senior Planning and EIA Consultant at RPS, acting on behalf of Associated British Ports. The application site lies immediately north of the Port of Swansea. ABP does not object to the principle of development at this site and recognises the important benefit that the mixed-use development of the SA1 area has had on the city, including the valuable contribution towards Swansea's local housing need. We first contacted the Council in relation to this application in October 2022 to express concerns not only about the impact on ABP's long-established operations and future aspirations, but also on the residential amenity of future occupiers of the application site. It was understood that the Council intended to address these matters, and therefore ABP is surprised that such matters have not been addressed in the committee report. The Port of Swansea, together with ABP's Port Talbot, contributes £670 million to the economy every year and supports almost 10,000 jobs. On its own, the Port of Swansea handles around £140 million in trade. Future plans for the Port of Swansea envisage a decisive shift onto a new economic pathway, aligned to international net zero carbon ambitions, bringing new innovation and prosperity to the region and new highly skilled jobs. Policy T9 of the adopted Swansea Local Development Plan recognises the importance of development which enhances the viability of the ports. The supporting text, Policy T9, states, the future development and viability of the port and docks is identified as an important consideration for proposals within the Fabian Way Strategic Development Area. Development proposals within the SDA should be complementary with the established ports. The intention of Policy T9, which aligns with ABP's intention at this committee, is to ensure that any development on land in close proximity to the established port does not prejudice current or future port operations and their important contribution to the local economy. By requiring development to be complementary, the policy clearly requires it to adequately mitigate against any potential impacts from port operations. Whilst ABP does not dispute the findings of the noise impact assessment, it wishes to reiterate that this survey only presents a snapshot in time at which currently this part of the port is underutilised. The reported baseline noise environment is therefore not wholly representative of a fully utilised operational port. Members will be aware that the Town and Country Planning General Permitted Development Wales Order grants statutory undertakers such as ABP significant permitted development rights for a range of activities associated with their operational requirements. This reflects the specialised nature and operational necessity of development by port authorities, which can change quite quickly. In other words, what is now a relatively quiet part of the port could intensify very quickly without requiring planning permission, and this intensification could give rise to noise levels that would not be appropriate for residents of the proposed development unless mitigated against properly. The noise impact assessment confirms that in most areas of the application site, noise levels can be controlled to acceptable levels with natural ventilation, but that some areas closer to the port boundary require an upgraded glazing and ventilation system. Whilst ABP welcomes the inclusion of noise mitigation, it continues to have concerns that the mitigation proposed is not sufficient to protect residential amenity and consequently will restrict the continuation of ABP's long-standing port operations. It is ABP's position that a more substantial boundary treatment should be implemented, a stronger landscaping buffer should be included along the southern boundary, and an upgraded glazing and ventilation system should be implemented for all properties on the site. In order that the committee's decision complies with Policy T9 of the adopted LDP, ABP considers that a strongly worded condition or number of conditions should be included on planning permission should the Council resolve to grant. Such conditions may include a condition to require the implementation of a more substantial landscaping buffer with a requirement for long-term maintenance over the lifetime of the proposed development, and a condition to require implementation of an appropriate upgraded glazing and ventilation system. The information required to discharge these conditions should include confirmation of the level of noise that such measures would attenuate against. ABP would be willing to work with the Council and/or the applicant to provide suitable information in this regard in order to assist in discharging such conditions. Whilst ABP does not wish for the application to be refused, it may be appropriate to defer determination of this application until appropriately worded conditions can be agreed. Thank you for your time today, and I hope that members will agree that it is appropriate to defer determination of the application today in order to ensure that inappropriate development does not occur. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And then we have Phil Baxter, for agent for Pobble. Phil, would you 5 minutes again address us, please?
Thank you, Chairman, and to committee for the opportunity to speak here today. I represent Pobble Group for this application. The proposal is for the construction of 108 homes on this allocated site in SA1. It's a reserve matters application, so the principle of development has clearly already been granted via the outline plan and permission. Pobble have worked very closely with your officers from numerous departments for well over 12 months to arrive at the scheme before you today. And Pobble would like to thank officers for their professionalism shown throughout that process. The site comprises previously developed land that was originally part of the operational port, but has long been allocated for housing in the current LDP and previous versions of the plan. It is part of the SA1 waterfront development area, and the outline planning permission reflects this. The proposals comprise 56 apartments and 52 townhouses. Whilst the SA1 master plan requires 10% of the homes to be affordable homes, given that Pobble are the applicants and also a registered social landlord, the reality of the situation is that the amount of affordable housing on the site is more than likely to be more than 50% of the site. Parking on site is being proposed at 117 spaces, but it must be acknowledged that more than 35% of the homes are one-bed units, and car ownership levels associated with one-bed units in a highly sustainable location such as this are typically much lower. As your officers have advised, the direction of travel being promoted by Welsh Government within Future Wales and Planning Policy Wales is to support schemes which keep parking levels lower in sustainable locations such as this. All apartments will have access to secure cycle parking provision, and all of the townhouses incorporate secure cycle storage space at plot frontages. The car parking on site, together with the highway within the site, will be managed by Pobl, and a parking management plan kept up to date for the site, something which is also required by Condition 7 in this report. Pobl, as a responsible developer and landlord, will also ensure a travel plan is kept up to date for the site. Pobl acknowledges the representations from the Associated British Ports, and in particular that the proposal should compromise development on adjacent ABP land. For this reason, Pobl are proposing the land uses which have previously been consented on the site as part of the wider SA1 master plan, and at a scale which is consistent with that consent. Furthermore, a noise survey was specifically procured to advise upon any mitigation necessary to ensure compatibility with adjoining uses, and a planning condition has been recommended via Condition 12 to ensure adequate soundproofing, and I note that this was something originally requested by the ABP agent. As previously mentioned, significant collaboration has taken place with all your officers to arrive at the scheme before you today and recommend it for approval. This scheme represents a very important development for Pobl and will contribute towards their ambitions for delivering energy-efficient homes for those in most need in Swansea. All of the Section 106 contributions requested are agreed to in order to achieve a high-quality, sustainable development that meets the well-being objectives of the Welsh Government. I conclude that and agree with your officers that the development is acceptable in all respects and meets the objectives of Future Wales and the adopted local development plan. Many thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much for both to both of you for your contributions there. Well, as the usual committee, are there any? Councillor Jones first, then. Thank you. Any other members wish to speak?
Thank you, Chair, and Happy New Year to you as well.
Yeah, thank you.
So I need to go back to the amenity space. In the houses, it showed the front garden and it had wheelie bins there, which looked really nice and tidy. And I thought, oh, they're going to look nice, except when they're full and they're overflowing, it's going to look really nice in the front. And I wasn't aware that we collected wheelie bins either from private properties. So I just wondered, isn't there any other amenity space at the back? Because you said something just now about cycle storage, and for the apartment blocks, it's fine. But with the houses, it was secure in the front. So what's going on in the back? You mentioned about balconies and other things, but you know, in today's world, we're frowned upon about having tumble dryers because of global warming and things like that. So is there anywhere that you can put a clothesline with that, especially with the houses? Obviously, the apartments is a little more difficult, but maybe there is spaces somewhere, because I know Pobl have flats very close to us and they have small gardens at the back, which they have where their refuse bins are and their washing lines. What is as well for what's there for the flats or apartments, sorry. Maybe you could show me either on the map or update me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Jones. Councillor White and then Councillor Keaton.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to ask, perhaps in regards to the landscaping within the development, there's quite a big area there. The officer obviously mentioned that on the agenda about consultation with departments, but can you confirm whether you actually do consult with our park services itself, who obviously carry out all the exhibits that we put around the city and that, and to make sure that the right sort of plant or shrubberies are suitable for there, because I know that I've an instance within my ward where this type of development been done by the developer on behalf of the landscape scheme, and then after a while the shrubs obviously die off or are not suitable. I'm just wondering whether consultation does take place with our officers within the Parks Department. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kitten and then Councillor Tribe.
Hi, actually it was a bit of Mary's and a bit of Mike's that was there. I was wondering with our environmental needs where they were going to dry washing, and also is there a play area around, because I take it there'll be some children involved. And I was delighted to hear rain gardens. Are they big enough? Are they, you know, have we really invested in the suds around there? Because let's face it, we're almost drowning in rain the last few months. That's not going to get any better. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tribe.
Good afternoon, all. Yeah, just a one query. Apart from the concerns raised by ABB, has there been any public consultations and any concerns raised by members of the public? Thank you.
Right. Okay, thanks. We've got no other hands up. No, sure. Good. David, anything response to those queries there? You moved it there, Dave.
My microphone back on. Yeah, Councillor Mary Jones first off. So yeah, the townhouses, you can just see obviously they are the terraces. So they actually have dual frontages. So when I put up the images, you can just see obviously where the bins and the entrances are. And then to the backs of those, obviously you've got the small terraces. So they've got, as I said, dual frontage. So you come in one way, and obviously you've got the sort of private area at the backs of those properties, and the three main blocks obviously overlook the landscape strategy, the landscape linear park, as it were. So obviously they've got their own private space, they've got their separate entrances, and obviously they're to the backs of the front where the car parking is. So obviously they could put washing lines up. You could put a small rotary potentially if it's small enough. As I say, they're not normal size gardens, they are terraces only. So that's how they've been designed, and obviously they'll have access to the landscaping. There was a question about play. In that area, there is actually provision for, there is a drawing actually which shows natural play provision within that area. So obviously it allows specifically for children within this site. But also, as you probably aware, the site to the north is an area to be laid out as public open space, and then on Prince of Wales Dock itself, there is obviously going to be an area for a NEEP, which will be which will serve SA1 in terms of the general play provision for the development as a whole. So that there is provision. Obviously, the bin lorries will need to come into the sites. There is private bin storage areas for the apartments. So I think the strategy will be that there will be responsibility, I think, for those bins to be located at a central point for pickup by, obviously, if they use the council's domestic collection services. Obviously they could pay for private collection if that was so desired, but it's unlikely. There's questions about the quality of the landscape and the planting. We haven't actually consulted with our parks people per se, because obviously the site will be maintained by POBL. What we have done, the landscape strategy, the detailed planting strategy has been subject to consultation with our ecology team and also landscape architect. And obviously, in terms of what the type of plans proposed, then obviously they've been approved as such as being appropriate for this type of development. So there has been consultation, not with parks, but with ecology and landscape architecture. So yes, I think I've addressed the refuse, the planting. I'll concentrate, ask questions about public consultation. Yes, there has been public consultation. It is summarised in the report. The main concerns appear to be around the car parking issue again, which we've had on similar plots in SA1 developments. So obviously, we've addressed that in our presentation and in the report as well. Are there any other issues I haven't covered?
Thank you, David.
So Keaton,
Uh,
there is
as usual, I'm concerned about the SUDs. I mean,
Oh, the
are
SUDs,
rain
yes,
gardens
sorry.
going to be sufficient? Is that all
Yeah.
that you've got as a rain garden?
Yeah,
Are there any
so
other ways?
so obviously the development will need to conform to a SUDS application. So yeah, it will rely heavily on things like the little rain gardens within the landscaping to make sure that that's compliant. Obviously, the normal strategy in SA1 obviously is that the surface water connects into Prince of Wales Dock. Obviously, it'll be attenuated before it reaches there. Obviously, it's not very close by, and the foul water obviously connects to the existing system as well. So, in terms of drainage, the infrastructure is there, but obviously the development will require its own SAB approval, certainly.
Okay, thank you.
okay. Okay.
There was comments from on behalf of ABP at the start, obviously. So I mean, yes, obviously the noise survey was undertaken specifically to address those type of issues from the existing. Obviously, you've got the juxtaposition of the operational port and this site. So this is always going to be the case with the SA1 development, and obviously it's tried to mitigate it as much as possible. There is a means of enclosure around the site at the minute, which basically is a wall with a mixture of railings as well. The site has been designed so that it is possible to link up into the ABP's land at some time in the future if it's redeveloped, but that's not intended to be the case as it currently stands. So it is self-contained. We've tried to mitigate in terms of obviously there is a planning condition which controls the glazing of the units. So and obviously if there was to be a buffer, I mean the site is constrained, as I say, by some extent because of the existing canal reservation strips. So obviously, if you were to put landscape buffers around the site perimeter, then you don't get much development areas left to develop. So I think in regard to that, I think it's acceptable as it is, to be honest.
Okay, thank you, David. Councillor Mary Jones, you had your hand up again? Yeah.
Yes, please. If we can go back to the amenity space, and which David has just mentioned, and ABP, a lot has been given about a lot of amenity space. But if they do join the Prince of Wales Dock to the Tennant Canal, then that's going to take a chunk out. So the amenity space has obviously been, I don't know how much quartered, however much, so that makes it sort of not so desirable. And my point, and I think it was Sarah's, about the outdoor space now is being curtailed. I mean, we're saying it's not on the cards at the moment, but in 5 years' time it could be, you know, and that they might not even finish building the site. So I am concerned there doesn't seem to be enough amenity space. The houses particularly don't seem to have enough outdoor space of their own. I mean, if you live in an apartment, you don't expect that so much, but with a house there should be enough room at least for young children. They're 4-bedroom family homes, and yet there doesn't seem to be enough amenity space. And I am really concerned about that. And I'm still concerned about the bin. Sorry, I don't think they've given enough thought to that. It's just, well, it might be. And I'm not blaming you, David. It's just the way it's coming over. Thank you.
Indeed, thank you very much.
Yeah, I would just stress, obviously, that let's say the townhouses, obviously, yes, they're 4-bedroom. They don't have typical gardens as you'd find in a suburban location, as I say. But then they are typical of other townhouse developments in the SA1, where you just have the small terraces. So obviously the access then to the communal area obviously is important. You make a relevant point about the canal, because obviously if the canal was ever constructed, then yes, you would lose what is a fundamental part of the scheme. So obviously there is a requirement in the LDP policy that there is a policy. The policy requires I think it's a 6-meter wide strip for the canal, and then you've got other areas on the side of the canal. Obviously, so it's been designed to have regard to that strip in terms of the width. So obviously, if it was developed, you are losing the existing park layout. What you would be gaining, obviously, is an aspect overlooking the canal. So obviously, it's not just the canal. There would be a side borders, footpaths, and there would be some opportunity for landscaping as well. So yeah, you are correct. You would lose an element of landscaping, but you would obviously gain the aspect of a canal feature, which obviously would be a pleasant environment in itself. But yeah, I mean, as I say, in terms of the SA1 development, it is typical that you don't have the amenity areas of a suburban type development, but obviously we do have the areas within development which will come on board hopefully this year. So obviously that compensates. So they will provide the open space and the play provision for all the developments in SA1. So obviously I think having regard to that, then that's the way the scheme was designed, and the layout was designed right at the original SA1 master plan. So in that context, obviously it's deemed to be appropriate.
Sorry, can I just make a comment? It is a bit tongue-in-cheek. Where the amenity site is currently proposed, you can walk on it. I don't think anybody yet can walk on water, so children cannot play. You'd have to make sure that it was safe, and it is taking a huge chunk out of the amenity space. And I think that is something that hasn't really been appreciated when you look at this development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I got no other hands up to speak. Anyone? Sure. Okay, thank you all. We can see the recommendation is on page 45, and it's one to approve. So Gareth, if you would take that vote now, please.
Yeah, certainly, Chair. Councillor Peter Black.
For.
Phil Downing.
For.
Alan Jeffrey. Councillor Jeffrey.
For.
Thank you. Mary Jones.
Against.
Sarah Keaton.
For.
Mike Lewis.
For.
Nicola Matthews.
For.
Mark Tribe.
For.
Mike White.
For.
Andrew Williams.
For.
And Paul Lloyd.
And for.
That's 10 for, 1 against, Chair.
Thank you
That's
very
carried.
much. Thank you all. And thank you again for the meeting this afternoon. And that concludes the business for us today. But we'll be back again on the, sorry, Councillor Lewis, did you have your hand up? Oh, it's gone. Sorry. We'll be meeting again on the 6th of February. Thank you again. See you soon.
Right.
Can I ask Ian to stay on the line? Because I
Yeah.
want to ask him a
Yeah.
question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.